Hey everyone, this is Coach Celeste Stacey. Welcome to my channel. And this channel is all about getting our joy back, healing us, getting to the root cause of what is beneath that pain. So today we're going to talk about a topic that I was given by someone who recently commented on my video called The Real Reason We Stay So Fat. And that particular video focused on a statistically large population that suffers from chronic obesity the most, and that is African American women like me. And the commenter took issue with that video. And I want to read it. First of all, I'd love to say thank you so much for your comments. I love it. I'm the type of person, I don't care if you agree or you disagree with me. I love the fact that you're asking. I love the fact that it provokes thought, that it provokes conversation. So I'm so excited. And thank you so much for your comment. And so this particular commenter said to that video, said, well, what are you talking about? All of your narrative comes down to Black women are different from other women of other races. You're talking like other women of other races don't experience all the stress that you're talking about. The whole planet knows when they're fat or gain weight. You're trying to give a free pass on Black women. You're trying to spare every woman from taking responsibility. You're perpetuating the problem by saying it's not their fault. They know that if they're fat or not. At the end of the day, it's laziness, it's unresolved trauma that leads to so low self-esteem. And the vast majority of Black women did not take care of their childhood trauma for many reasons. Say the brutal truth, stop exonerating the guilty, which is themselves. Okay. So that was a mouthful, right? It's just like, oh, you're making it seem like all people don't experience that. So as I mentioned to, and I reply, really try to reply to the people who comment. If you comment, you're going to get a reply. And as I responded, if you watch the video, I saw that say this is not just about Black women who suffer from chronic obesity the most. If you are not a woman, if you are any other ethnicity, if you suffer from this the most, I say keep watching because this is about you too. And it kind of reminded me in a way of how people, often get upset, with for example, with the Black Lives Matter movement. And they're saying all lives matter, all lives matter. Yes, and that particular movement is talking about Black lives, right? So it's, of course, everybody experiences trauma, pain, stress, all of those things. That video addressed the most statistically impacted group, of which I am a member, right? African American women. And so the person responded and said, hey, it's not about the intent. The intent's great. It's about the excuses and the fact that you're saying it's not their fault. You make it clear it's at some point in the video. And so this next part is what prompted me, what inspired me to create this video. The viewer in the commenter says, how about women being guilty of being lazy? How about addressing the fact that men, in vast majority, don't go seriously for women who are overweight? How about bringing some shame into this, since being nice didn't work for decades? How about for once giving this a bit more grip so it hits harder? That's what I'm waiting to hear from women these days, not the burden that crushes them and prevents them from taking matters into their own hands. So this viewer said, well, how about bringing the shame? How about bringing the shame? And so that's what we're going to talk about today. The question is, does shame really work? In my experience, it does not. I hate to tell you, shame doesn't work. Okay, so for those of you who do not know it, I am actually a professionally trained coactive coach. And a coactive coach is someone who works together with the client to uncover what's really going on beneath the surface so that they can get their life back, they can get their joy back. I was trained by the world-renowned Coactive Training Institute. That is an elite coach training institution, organization, internationally known, internationally recognized and accredited. It is rooted in the foundation that we are all creative, resourceful, whole, just as we are. We just need to understand how to uniquely tap into those things that make us an individual so that we can get through the blocks and the barriers that steal our joy and keep us from it, right? So I think they know a little bit about what creates true, sustainable change in people. And that is my background, and that's my mindset and where I come from, right? So keep that in mind. So change does not heal. So case in point, have you ever had someone make you feel ashamed about something that you're not doing right, or maybe you're not doing in the way that they want you to do, and they browbeat you about it? They talk about you. They make you feel like trash. They make you feel ashamed of whatever that thing is. Think about how you respond to that. Do you respond to that by running out and saying, you know what? I'm going to do that thing that they're making me feel like crap about, and I'm going to show them, and I'm going to prove to them that I'm not that. Maybe you do that. Maybe some people do. A lot of people, on the other hand, say, you know what? Screw that person. I don't care what they think. That's them. I'm myself, I don't care. And I'm going to be what I'm going to be. If it's a family member, you may want to try to avoid that family member at all costs, unless it's absolutely necessary. Or you may form a deep-seated resentment against that person. And so the things that you do that they make you feel ashamed about, you just don't do it in front of them, or you close yourself off to that person more. You close yourself off even more. Okay, so that's what I'm talking about. It creates resentment. And a lot of times, it also creates self-loathing. Shame does not heal. And when I talk about self-loathing and I talk about shame, in this society, in most developed societies, right? We grew up on shame. We grew up being ashamed. Hell, women have been taught to be ashamed to eat, taught to be ashamed to eat. How do I know this? All I have to do is listen to the conversations that happen around the lunch table in restaurants when women get together, right? We sit there, we look at a menu, we're like, oh, that looks so good. I know I shouldn't have it. I know it's bad, but I'm going to try it today. Oh, I would love to get this, but oh, I better not. I don't need it. That's shame. That's shame. Okay. So more of that shame is not helping. Understand? Shame and self-loathing also causes people to hurt other people. There's a lot of mental illness in this world. And because of that, a lot of people feel unseen. And when you feel unseen, you start to self-loathe and you start to act out in ways in which you think it will make you feel seen. But a lot of those ways are toxic. With that being said, can shame be a motivator? Can it be? Is shame a motivator, or is it something else that's motivating? So case in point, I talked about in that video how I didn't want to be seen as a monolith. And because I was in that statistic of 4 out of 5 Black women being fat, I was like, oh man, I'm fat. Was that shame? In a way, it was shame. And in a way, it motivated me to say, I don't want to be part of a monolith. I don't want to be part of a statistic. So I think for me, what was more of a motivation, or what has been more of a motivation, is for me wanting to be seen as an individual and not glommed into this big statistic, right? I didn't want to be glommed into a big statistic. I think that was more a motivation for me. But it was also, yes, it was also shame. But if I really think about it and examine it, if someone said to me, which someone has in the past, people have said things out of their mouths in the past about my weight, if I think about it, it never made me respond positively. I never said or did in response to someone shaming me, oh, look what's on your plate or something like that. I never then said, oh, let me change what's on my plate. I kind of thought to myself, well, mind your business. Or, I like, who are you to try to shame me? It always made me feel more resentful, right? What motivated me more was the positive influences of people who were doing it, right? And all those people who were doing it had positive things to say. They never shamed people who were trying to follow in their footsteps. Why? Because they know shame doesn't work. It makes you retreat, right? It makes you retreat and retract. Where when you motivate people, you help them see what's possible and you nurture them through the challenges. And what motivates me is not shame. What motivates me is people who are encouraging, people who kind of help me see myself. You cannot see the picture of yourself when you're sitting in the frame. So people who can help me see myself better to facilitate that change. That's what I love. And little by little, I'm making it happen. It's not going to be overnight, but it's happening. So let's lastly talk about what feeds the human need to be shamed, to see shame, to bully, to pressure, and to point fingers. There are countless thriving channels out here of people who have built their empire on blaming and shaming. Nothing wrong with that. To each his or her own. Whatever feeds you, feeds you. If you grew up being shamed, you're going to respond to shame. You're going to pass along shame. If you were hurt, you're going to want to pass along that hurt with a punch, right? You're going to want to make that person feel as bad as maybe you were made to feel. It's the mentality of when we were kids in school, and some of the kids who had sort of bloodlust saw some kid being beat up and they were like, yeah, get him, get him. Because at some point they were minimized, right? So there is a pattern of what I talk about in that video that caused that pushback of a comment, and what I'm going to talk about now in other videos, right? There is a pattern, and that pattern is either through minimization or objectification. Growing up, one of those two things happened to us. Maybe at certain times and at different times, they happen to us conversely. So maybe at some point in our life, we were minimized. Maybe in another point in our lives, we were objectified, right? But at some point in our lives, we were impacted by one of those things, minimization or objectification. And throughout our lives, we create patterns that protect ourselves from those things. I want you to identify your pattern. So when I hear someone say that they want to make someone feel bad, guilty, shamed, lazy, something, I ask myself, what experience did the person have? Were they minimized at some point, or were they objectified? And what it sounds like is that they were minimized at some point. And that minimization caused pain. They were made to feel not seen, not valued in some way. And because of that, they want to give that right back to another person and make them feel unseen and unvalued in some way. You see how shame perpetuates, you see how it does not heal. It only manifests in other forms. And so I challenge you to think about that when you think about your own life experiences. What's causing this in me? Because really, everything that we say, do, etc., it's not about other people, right? It's about us. Everyone has an opinion, which is wonderful, but it is the place from which we were originally impacted, whether we were minimized or objectified, is how we move through the world. It is how we see others, and it's how we believe others see us, no matter what the real situation can be. So think about that. Think about how that applies to your own life, and ask yourself the question, when it comes to this thing that I am so passionate about, and I may have negative thoughts about it, was I minimized or was I objectified when it comes to that thing? And when you are minimized and objectified, think about how you felt and think about the patterns that you're following because of it. Until next time, this is Coach Celeste Stacey. Like, comment, subscribe, share. You never know who it can help. Until next time, bye.